Halloween weekend had arrived, and this year it fell perfectly on a Saturday, a rare occurrence that promised a night of revelry and spooky adventures. In our family, Halloween was more than just a holiday, it was practically a competitive sport. My mom in particular took it very seriously, treating our home as a contender for the title of the most sought-after trick-or-treat destination in the entire neighborhood. We lived on a corner in an ordinary suburban neighborhood, which meant we had two sides to decorate, the front yard and the side of the house. As the day began, it was evident that the weather was not on our side. Clouds loomed overhead, and a distinct chill hung in the air. The forecast even hinted at the possibility of rain, which didn't bode well for the trick-or-treaters. Kids in our area often started their Halloween rounds earlier in the day, so the lack of activity early on raised concerns about the day's prospects. However, my mom, ever the Halloween enthusiast, seemed undeterred by the weather. She believed that the lack of decorations was the primary reason behind the lackluster turnout of trick-or-treaters. Determined to rectify the situation, she turned to me and tasked me with an unusual mission: retrieving the remaining Halloween decorations from the attic. Initially, I resisted her request, deeming it unnecessary due to the impending rain. But she was adamant that more decorations would lure the neighborhood kids to our house, so I reluctantly agreed. In our house, the attic was located directly above my bedroom, accessible via a ladder in the hallway upstairs. The attic was mainly used for storage, and holiday decorations were sorted and stored in specific containers. I ventured into the attic, where I encountered the typical disarray of storage spaces. After sifting through a few containers, I found the ones we needed and decided that it was good enough. As I made my way to retrieve the containers, something out of the ordinary caught my attention. A sound emanated from the far corner of the attic. It was an eerie noise, akin to the creaking or cracking of wood, distinctly out of place for an attic. At that moment, I chalked it up to the usual sounds one might hear in such an environment and continued with my task. With the containers in tow, I began the careful descent from the attic. However, my curiosity about the strange noise nagged at me. Just as I was about to make my way down, I heard it again, a distinct, wooden creaking sound. It was as if someone or something was moving around the attic. A chill ran down my spine as I contemplated the implications of these eerie noises. It was baffling, as no one had been in the attic, at least as far as I knew. This puzzling occurrence left me with an uneasy feeling, but I brushed it off and continued my descent. Upon reaching the ground floor, I shared my concerns with my mom. I tried to convince her that there was no need for additional decorations, especially considering the adverse weather conditions. Yet, my mom remained adamant that the lack of decorations was the root cause of our lackluster Halloween participation. As the day progressed, it became evident that the inclement weather had indeed dampened the Halloween spirit in our neighborhood. The few trick-or-treaters who dared to venture out were greeted with a dedicated display of decorations in our front yard. However, the wind and impending rain appeared to be insurmountable obstacles to a successful Halloween celebration. As evening turned into night and the rain began to fall in earnest, the trickle of trick-or-treaters dwindled to almost nothing. My mom was disheartened. She'd gone to great lengths to prepare homemade goodie bags filled with an assortment of candies. The prospect of not sharing them with eager trick-or-treaters was a significant disappointment for her. With the sound of rain hitting the windows and the occasional distant rumble of thunder, I retreated to the solitude of my room. There, I immersed myself in a world of video games on my laptop, a favorite pastime from my teenage years. In those moments, the weather outside seemed far removed from my digital adventures. In the midst of my gaming session, I was suddenly jolted from my virtual reality by a noise that pierced the relative quiet of our home. This time, the sound was not subtle or easily dismissible. It came from above, unmistakable and unsettling. Footsteps. It was as if someone was walking in the attic. I paused my game, my pulse quickening, and my mind racing to find a rational explanation. I considered the possibility that my mom had decided to add more decorations or retrieve something from the attic despite the late hour. Yet something about the situation felt off, and an undeniable sense of foreboding washed over me. Unable to ignore the strange occurrence, I sat in silence, straining my ears to decipher any further sounds. The footsteps had stopped, leaving me in suspense. I remained in my room, unnerved but uncertain of the next course of action. Moments later, the noise resumed, confirming my suspicion that someone was indeed in the attic. The footsteps echoed with a strange intensity, as if the person was deliberately moving about. It was a chilling realization that someone other than my family was present in our home. With trepidation, I decided to investigate. My instinct told me to find my dad and inform him of the situation. I exited my room and stepped into the dimly lit hallway. The attic door stood partially open, an eerie sight that sent shivers down my spine. The relentless rain outside seemed to mirror the turmoil inside my mind. I hesitated for a moment, my hand hovering over the attic door. The situation was surreal, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was gravely amiss. As I inched closer to the attic, the sense of unease grew. The steps were clearer now, echoing within the confined space. It was as if the intruder were aware of my presence and was intentionally making their presence known. Overwhelmed by a cocktail of fear and curiosity, I braced myself and ascended the attic ladder. The small space was dimly lit, illuminated only by a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. The boxes of holiday decorations were neatly stacked against the far wall, casting eerie shadows in the dim light. My gaze darted around the attic, searching for any sign of the intruder. The realization that I was alone in this unfamiliar environment intensified my fear. It was then that I heard a muffled sound, a whisper, perhaps. The voice was hushed and incoherent, making it impossible to discern the intruder's intentions. In that moment, my heart raced, and my instincts urged me to return to the safety of my room. However, a nagging sense of responsibility and curiosity compelled me to stay. I had to find out who was in the attic and what they were doing there. Cautiously, I approached the source of the whispering, a section of the attic shrouded in shadows. It was then that I saw a figure, huddled in the corner, hidden behind a wall of containers. The intruder's presence became alarmingly real as I confronted the chilling sight. The intruder appeared disheveled, with wild, unkempt hair and ragged clothing. They seemed oblivious to my presence, their attention fully absorbed by the contents of a jar of peanut butter, which they devoured voraciously. The sight was surreal and unnerving, a stranger in our attic, indulging in a midnight snack. In that moment, I felt a surge of panic and dread. It was clear that this intruder was no mere trick-or-treater or lost wanderer seeking shelter from the rain. Their presence was calculated, and their intentions remained a mystery. To my relief, the intruder seemed disinterested in confronting me, allowing me to silently retreat from the attic and descend the ladder. The feeling of vulnerability overwhelmed me as I returned to the safety of my room. In the living room, my mom was still busy with the remaining Halloween candy, oblivious to the strange occurrences unfolding in the attic. I decided to share my discovery with my parents, who were as shocked and perplexed as I was. My dad, a pragmatic man, decided it was time to take action. He told me to remain quiet, lock the bedroom door, and then opened the front door for the approaching police. As he made the call, my mom, still unaware of the intruder's presence, questioned the sudden urgency. A sense of unease hung over our home, heightened by the eerie sounds of rain and thunder outside. We were left with the unsettling task of waiting for the arrival of the police, who would hopefully resolve the mystery of the intruder in our attic. Minutes felt like hours as we remained locked in our bedroom, the tension in the air almost palpable. The strange incident had shaken us to our core, leaving us with a mix of fear and curiosity. The sound of approaching sirens signaled the arrival of the police, who quickly assessed the situation and formulated a plan. The officer informed us that he would enter the house, locate the intruder, and ensure the safety of our home. My mom, now aware of the situation, was visibly distraught, her excitement for Halloween replaced by anxiety and uncertainty. I couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility, as if my reluctance to go to the attic earlier had indirectly led to this eerie discovery. The police officer, armed and ready, cautiously ascended to the attic, where the strange sounds had emanated. We waited in silence, each passing moment filled with apprehension. Finally, the officer reappeared, escorting a disheveled and bewildered individual from the attic. It was evident that the intruder was homeless, driven by the need for shelter on a stormy Halloween night. Our home had unwittingly provided that refuge, leading to the peculiar events of the evening. The police officer, while perplexed by the situation, handled the matter with professionalism and empathy. The intruder, hungry and seeking shelter, had been living on the fringes of society. In the attic, they had found temporary solace from the elements. Remarkably, my parents decided not to press charges against the intruder. Instead, they emphasized the importance of empathy and compassion. The incident served as a stark reminder of the hardships faced by some, even on a night as festive as Halloween. Despite the eerie and unsettling nature of the situation, it was a testament to the kindness and understanding that could arise from the most unexpected encounters. Our Halloween night had taken a bizarre turn, but it had also provided us with a unique and memorable story to share. Looking back on that night, we couldn't help but wonder what might have happened if the intruder's intentions had been different. The eerie discovery had left us with a sense of vulnerability and an appreciation for the unpredictability of life. In the end, our Halloween celebration, while marred by strange and chilling events, had also highlighted the importance of compassion and empathy, even in the most unusual circumstances.